Amanda, how do you know if a joke works or not? If sometimes this is so funny. We actually talked about this in my coaching session with Josiah today. How do you know if a joke works or not? Joke works, or let me try it again, Amanda. How do you know if a joke works or not? If works sometimes and then doesn't work other times. A joke is really a law of averages. Kind of like how people ask, well, how do you know when to kill a joke? It's like, well, after like 10, 20 times of trying it, if it doesn't work, go ahead and throw it to the side. Don't necessarily get rid of it or kill it, but just put it on a shelf that you can revisit later on. So, for a joke to work sometimes and not the other, take into consideration what the setting of the show is where it works versus when it doesn't. I always, before my show, I go through a pre-show checklist. And this is something I talk about in the writing course based on like judging a room is like, okay, what time is it? What day is it? Who are the people in the audience? Is it primarily comics? Is this a comedy venue versus a pub that most people didn't even know there was going to be comedy? How is the audience responding to other comics? These are all kind of factors that'll play into the response you get and how to gauge it when you're grading your set. So I would say if a joke works sometimes and not, be mindful of when it does work, what is that setting versus when it doesn't work, what is that setting? And when you listen back to your set, maybe you said it one way that made it work, whether it was a certain phrasing, it was a certain way how you said it, versus when it didn't work, maybe you were tired and you said it with a little less enthusiasm, or maybe you skipped over a word and you missed the proper wording of the setup to get to that punchline, or maybe you flubbed on the punchline. So there's so many different factors, but if a joke works sometimes and doesn't the other, there's usually some sort of smoking gun. There's usually some sort of reason behind it working, whether it is the setting or it is how you said the joke. So it could be the setting or the setting. But that should help you to actually narrow down when does it work? How can I make sure it works more times? Or when it doesn't work, how can I avoid that in the future? Great question, though. Great question, though. It all comes down to trying it several times, recording that, reviewing it, refining. Hey, hop brethren and sistren, if you enjoyed this comedy tip, subscribe to this YouTube channel and go join our Facebook group to have your questions answered live on next week's Q&A.